Thank you, Ryan, for joining us. It's great to chat with you again. Thank you, everyone, for joining this month's episode. I can't believe it's already been a month, and what a month it's been. Before we get started on today's topic, I do want to congratulate you on your Denobi Award. And I am not very familiar with those awards. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your award and maybe what the Denobi Awards are.
Yeah, well, thanks, Carlos, and good to see you again. The month did go real quickly. Yeah, it was an honor. The Denobi Awards are in their third year. It's a really nice thing, and it's designed to not only recognize people that have been in the industry a while. As you know, I'm in my 29th year, and there were a few folks like me that are dinosaurs that have been here forever that got recognized, but they recognized a lot of unsung heroes, a lot of folks that don't get on stage, maybe people in the industry, they're not household names in the dental industry. People don't always know what they're doing, but they're doing a lot of great things like community health. And, even one of the award winners, helped disabled patients, just some really good stuff. And it's in its third year, and I really enjoyed the award ceremony. It was in Dallas, and next year I'm hopeful I can even get involved with it. There's an opportunity perhaps to hand out some awards, do some things, and I'd like to get even more involved in it. So if you don't know, it's a great, it's really a great award show, a great organization. You can nominate people, attend the ceremony. So it was nice. And, the older I get, Carlos, the more sentimental I get about these things. So I really enjoyed getting that one. It's kind of cool.
That's great. Well, congratulations to you and the other winners. I look forward to seeing who those are on LinkedIn. So in the last month, like I said, what a month it's been. We just a couple of weeks out from what some people are calling a black swan event, which is what happened with Change Healthcare and, the leading, if not one of the leading claims and billing companies in the U.S. That was not on our bingo card when we were talking last month about the things that could happen in 2024. And I really wanted your thoughts on first, your thoughts on that in general, then we'll go over into a little bit more detail.
I mean, it's not new. Okay. Last year, something that personally inconvenienced me was MGM had the blackout. And you know how many dental conferences we had in Vegas. And
Sure.
you couldn't book rooms. I think for 3 or 4 conferences in a row, you couldn't book rooms, because MGM had the blackout. A couple years ago, some of the banks, had one. Before this one, before the Change Health incident, probably once a month, one of my DSO clients is having a problem. It used to be maybe once a year. Now it's about once a month. We're having that happen. One of the largest, most well-known distributors in medical and dental had it happen to them. This is not new. And until people get really serious about their cyber protection plan and put everything in place, this stuff's going to keep happening. It's not going to stop. And that the hacker, Carlos, are getting more sophisticated. They're getting better. At our event, this year in Dykema, we're going to have a big push on cybersecurity. And I was going over some of the presentations, and I found it interesting just to let you know how sophisticated some of these organizations. They're criminal organizations, but they
absolutely international, Tim.
Yeah, they operate in jurisdictions that don't really treat them as criminals, so they can kind of get away with it. They have a help desk. So if you have trouble getting your ransom payment in, I've been told they have a help desk that'll help you.
That is incredible.
This is how sophisticated. This is not like, somebody operating in their mom's basement, in North Korea or something like that. These organizations have gotten so sophisticated. And, they have one motivation in mind. They want to get money, Bitcoin. They want you to transfer money to them. They really don't tend to care about your information one way or the other. It's just a means to an end. It's a means to get the ransom. And they're so sophisticated now that one of our clients, had the insurance carrier or somebody that was going to pay the ransom, but they were having a little trouble navigating the software to do it. And the help desk was there to help out. They called the help desk, and wasn't that nice. They helped them facilitate the payment. Very professional. They were, because again, it's not personal. They just want the money. they help do it, and they release the information. But, this particular one, I mean, very bad. I read that United is setting up a financial assistance program for affected providers that, are accustomed to timely receiving, their payments. And now it's going on 2 weeks. Some of the payments have been held up, which has created a massive cash flow problem for some providers. So, it's I mean, it's a mess, but it's always a mess. You can say, this one is this one any more black swan than when MGM got blacked? I mean, MGM being a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, obviously they're only peripherally in our industry because
Sure.
all the conferences are in Vegas, but they're not really part of dentistry. But, when these things happen, they cause catastrophic disruption.
Absolutely.
We're going to pray that it doesn't happen to like the power. When I was in Chicago at the midwinter and my iPhone went out, and then AT&T reported a massive outage, I was having my fingers crossed saying, please don't make it a cyber attack. And they've subsequently come out and said it was not. But, those companies are under attack. Obviously, the infrastructure, the water, the power, the U.S. government, all private corporations are under attack. And I can't think of a time or an instance, Carlos, where this happens, where it's not a catastrophic inconvenience to anybody concerned. Maybe if you're not trying to go to Vegas and book a room, MGM's not that hard. Or maybe when it happens to one bank, but you bank with a different bank, maybe
Sure.
it's okay. But if it happens with somebody you do business with and somebody that you rely on, it is always a catastrophic inconvenience. And that's the
Sure.
idea.
Well, I think for our conversation, I think that if it happens to us, right, if it happens to a DSO or a vendor, right, like one of the things that we preach at Planet DDS is focusing on the areas that we can control. So to one of your comments early on in this conversation is, what are some things that DSOs can do to protect themselves?
Yeah, you gotta have insurance. Absolutely have to have insurance in place. And I just did this week, so it's fresh in my mind. I always knew a little bit about it, but I actually got some details because I literally just did it this last week. There's different policies cover different things. The average event is $7, 8, 9, $10 million it could cost. If you're an average size organization, if you're one of the largest DSOs in America, it might be very, very different. But for an average, middle-sized DSO, these things, they seldom cost less than 5, 6, 7, 8, $9 million. There's different components that you need in your insurance. You need ransom, first of all, that you need to know that the carrier will engage, even with the help desk, if that's what they got to do, and they will make a ransom payment on your behalf. There's business disruption. Usually that's your daily rate times 15 to 20 times. Anybody listening? How do you value that? What is the daily rate of your whole organization? If you've got 25 practices, what is like your daily intake? What is it? And then you multiply times 15 to 20 times, and that'll be business disruption. Then there's restoration, computer restoration. Sometimes they contaminate your computers and you've got to restore them somehow. That can cost, 50 grand, a couple $100,000 to do that. So when you're shopping, the first thing we're talking about is insurance. When you're shopping for insurance, don't say, oh, it's just $1 million umbrella. And that sounds right. No, you got to look at your organization, Carlos, and say, okay, what would my business disruption be for my organization? What's my daily rate times 15 to 20 times, or maybe even more? It depends, right, on the situation. Number two, what's it going to cost to restore all my computers? Number three, what's a ransom going to be like? And they range depending on who the perpetrators are. It could be 50, 100 grand to 3, 4, 5 million. Or if you're a really large organization, even bigger than that. So you've got to make sure you've got enough coverage for that. So that's number one. Number two, you have to engage, to me, I mean, this is just my opinion, right? Nobody has to do anything, but my advice is you've got to engage outside resources to look at what you're doing. Your normal IT people generally can't handle this. They just can't. They've got to run the day-to-day operations of business, make sure email works, make sure the systems are generally working. It's almost too much to ask to say, now I want a firewall and I want you to be able to protect all of these things. You really got to get some outside consultants involved. If you do, and they look at you and they say, hey, everything's perfect. Well, then good for you. You're a rare organization. Congratulations. Maybe you don't need that much help. But most of my clients and people I work with, you got to get outside consultants involved to do a risk assessment. They employ a lot of what we call white hat legal hackers. They're hackers
Right.
that work for the organization, and with your permission, they're going to try to hack into your system, and they're going to figure out where the vulnerabilities are. And if you do that, you know where you stand. And I've had client after client over the years, many of them tell me, no, no, we got that covered. And somehow, I don't know how I convinced them to just give it a shot. And we use the outside company, and all of a sudden, all these vulnerabilities get noticed, and we lock that down. Because what happens is you just wake up one day and you can't get in your system. All your patients are locked out, everything's stuck. And to get your stuff back, you either have to pay a ransom or, that brings me to issue number 3, have a backup, and have the backup be on the cloud, not, in the server closet, at your practice.
Right.
That's the ultimate if you got to get the backup. But, sometimes it's not as easy as that. Even if you spend the time and effort, the backup will make sure, your organization isn't ultimately destroyed, but it can be time consuming to go and retrieve that. And there can be considerable business disruption from retrieving the backup. Somebody might say, hey, the good news is we do have a backup. Your organization's not going to be destroyed, but it's not going to be without disruption to go get that. So a lot of times, I hate to say it, I wish they'd come up with something else, Carlos, but right now, a lot of times the easiest thing to do is just pay the hackers, just pay the ransom. And if you have insurance, everything's set up, you can do that. If you don't have proper insurance or you're underinsured and you're not able to pay these folks, you may find yourself in a situation where you're shut down for weeks. I've even had a couple clients shut down for a couple months. It's devastating.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I want to go back to your point number 2. I think that we all have our own blind sides, right? Like it's kind of like evaluating how successful you were on a date or something like that, right? Like you could say I was excellent, but really it takes a third party opinion to give you an unbiased opinion, thought about how you're doing and how the system is. If
I
I'm
mean,
an IT provider, I'll do my best, but my best might not be the best.
but just think about it, okay? You got an IT department that you're paying, money. They're salaried employees. You're paying these folks. You're the CEO. You call them up. You're like my IT guy. Carlos, are you prepared? What are you going to say? No, I'm not prepared. We're unprepared. We haven't done a good job, Mr. CEO. No, you look like an idiot if you say that. You'll never say that. You can't say that. And so you got to say, no, we got it, even if you're not. And if I'm a CEO and I know to ask the question, but I'm not an expert in these things, how am I really going to be able to figure this out? So what I say is don't put the IT folks in that position. I can tell you right now, based on talking to FBI agents, at various conferences, cyber conferences, I've met with FBI agents that specialize in this. They say almost no in-house IT department. The CIA's in-house IT department's got this like they should. Absent like the CIA or the National Security Service or something, private companies' in-house IT departments don't got this. So don't put them in the situation of having to maybe be embarrassed or admit to you that they don't have it. You need to get proactive about it. You need to engage outside resources and do an assessment. Again, if it comes back that you're perfect, congratulations, no problem. But it most always comes back that there's vulnerabilities and there's problems. And when there are, you can fix them before you have an incident. Because I almost think, Carlos, it's very sad if there's not a serious change in the way the world operates. Almost everybody's going to have this happen sooner or later. It's just a matter of time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even for those users, providers, anybody, people that say, I don't trust the internet. I don't use the internet to access my bank. It doesn't matter. Your information is still up there, right? So security at every level is so important.
The problem with this is if you got 5 employees, and almost nobody does, as your organization grows more and more. If you got 5 employees, maybe not 100%, but you probably can lock it down. You can get them all in a room. You could say, guys, don't fudge any of this stuff. It's really important. And probably you're mostly going to be okay. But when you start to get hundreds or thousands of employees, their motivations are different. Some of them, quite frankly, work there while they're looking for another job. They just don't have it in any organization. Yeah, if you have enough people, some of them will run through a wall for you. Some of them are sort of in the middle, and some are just biding their time to go somewhere else. You could be a great organization, but they're just not a particularly incentivized employee, or they're not diligent. They don't care. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because these incidents almost always occur because an employee, breaches protocol or does something lazy or doesn't follow, like a human error. They get a phishing
Or
email
clicks on a link that they shouldn't on an email.
and they respond to it. I mean, obviously, if you're, an up and coming executive at that company, you're going to be diligent. You're going to make sure you do everything or whatever. But if you're just somebody punching the clock at that organization, and we all have, I mean, I hate to say, you've got hundreds and hundreds of people, you try your best to have people that are invested and they work hard. But in any population, Carlos, there's always going to be a couple that, for whatever reason, they're aspiring to do something else with their life, and they're just not into your organization the way you want them to be. And those are the folks that sometimes are vulnerable to, they'll respond to these emails, they'll get lazy, they'll breach protocol. And my point is, you can't control these folks. No matter what you do, they're going to be out there. And, one or two of those folks will make a mistake or be indifferent, just do something. And next thing you know, you're in one of these situations.
Well, and like you also mentioned, they become so sophisticated, these hackers, that these emails look like they're authentic from a bank or from an insurance company. So unless you're looking at the delivery address, the incoming email address, you don't really know that it's not. And then lo and behold, you click on something, or even looking at the address where it's going, as opposed to maybe what it looks like on the page, somebody will just click on it and boom, they're in.
It's really scary. I've had that happen a couple times where it'll say something like, Carlos at Citibank or whatever, and it'll be like, they'll have all the logos, and it'll say something like, it's always like they want to shock you. There's been a problem with your bank account. There's been a theft. They'll use something crazy. And the first thing I do, interestingly enough, it's so funny you say that, before I even get my blood pressure up or worry about it or call IT, is I click at the top. And it might say, I'm Carlos from Citibank. And I go up there and it says, Carlos, 12345. And it's all this weird email, some strange place. And I'm like, oh, gotcha. You cut and paste all the bank stuff. But when I clicked on your email, it's not from, whatever the bank is. So that's an easy way to catch them. And when you do that, just delete it. Delete it immediately. Maybe call your IT department. But it's scary. I mean, it's scary that stuff gets in, and certain people, because what they want to do is they want to shock you. They want to say something like, Carlos, your car is being stolen right now. Click on this thing.
We need you to respond right away.
And sometimes, even myself, I've never done it, like gone to that level where I've clicked on it. But a couple times I've read it and I've been like, okay, wait, take a deep breath. It's probably one of these folks. Let's go look. Or I'll call my IT department and say, hey, this is disturbing, but can you look at this for me? And, most always they're like, absolutely don't touch it. It's a problem, but that's what they rely on, that shock and awe to kind of get you concerned about something so you'll act without thinking.
So 100%. Back to your initial point about insurance. Have you seen an uptick in lawsuits, either from patients or victims of cyber attacks? Is that something that should also be added to that insurance?
Well, yeah. I mean, if I have seen and to answer your first question, I have seen an uptick. Usually it targets really big companies. I have not seen too many mid-sized DSOs, get sued by patients. But, if you're, I don't know, Chase Bank or Citibank, and you have some incident and a whole bunch of customers are affected, the plaintiff's lawsuit bar will get involved, and they'll file class action lawsuits for, invasion of privacy and violation of privacy regulations. The lawyers are the only ones that benefit from that. They get their attorney's fees paid, and the public, for AT&T, congratulations, I got a $5 credit for having my service wiped out. I mean, it'll be something like that. It'll be like, you $5 credit or something happened. So it really doesn't help the public, but
To monitor your social security number,
yeah.
your credit.
Yeah, you get free. I mean, I think I got a letter personally apologizing to me from the CEO of MGM, and it contained, this was last year when this happened, and it contained, free credit monitoring. Plus, there was something really modest. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't something
Right.
that was going to really benefit my next trip to Vegas. A free Gatorade at the gift shop. I'm making a joke, but something like that. It was not
Sure.
anything that was really going to help. But, it's actionable. To answer your question, right now it's happening with the big organizations. If they get an incident, yeah, there's class action lawsuits and they got to deal with that on top of everything else. If you're a small DSO, it hasn't quite attracted the attention of plaintiffs' attorneys, probably because the recovery can't be as big as it is. Obviously, if you're a bank or you're MGM, it could be, thousands or millions of potential customers and the damages magnify. If it's a small organization and it's just 10 or 20,000, the damages, can't get magnified as much as it is with a bigger organization. But you're absolutely right. Technically, if you have one of these incidents, it's not just paying the ransom. It's not just business disruption. It's not just getting your organization back up and running. You could have liability to patients that have had their information compromised. But, I will say this also. Sometimes that doesn't happen so much because with the banks, people want their bank accounts because they feel like they can get money on top of it, or they want their credit card numbers because they can make fraudulent charges. There's not a lot you can do with patient records. And I will say, most of the time when this happens, we can often prove that the hackers didn't even look at anything. They froze it so you couldn't get at it. They wanted your money. Once they got your money, they opened it back up. I mean, looking at your x-rays of the last cavity you had are not really of interest to somebody that's trying to get Bitcoins. They just want the Bitcoins.
Right. Right.
But if
Getting an extra
if
two.
they do look at your stuff, absolutely, you got fines from the government, you've got class actions from patients, a lot of things can happen.
Interesting. I had a question here and it escaped me. Give me 2 seconds. I know that for Planet DDS, we're not the only ones, but we spent a lot of time and resources to get SOC 2 certified. Again, we're not the only vendor SaaS solution that's done that. I think I wanted your opinion on how valuable that certification is for a SaaS solution.
Yeah, I mean, look, anything you can do to demonstrate that an objective third party has certified you in some way, gives me more comfort. I'm often, as somewhat of a, I should say, elder statesman in this industry, I don't just get legal questions. I sometimes get a lot of business questions. Brian, what have you seen from a business standpoint? What do you know? What do you think about Planet DDS? What do you think about this company? What do you think about that company? And, to me, just my personal opinion, when people are relying on it, the more third-party verifications or certifications you have gives me a lot more comfort when I'm advising my clients, because it's not the be all end all. Doesn't mean you're bulletproof, but it gives me a lot more comfort because there's so many SaaS companies forming. Almost every day I get a phone call. I tend to get them, hey, I'm a new SaaS company. I'm thinking of doing business in the DSO industry. What can you tell me? Definitely get it at least once a week, get a phone call, about that. And a lot of people, or a lot of organizations, there can be significant consequences if you do business with what I would say is a fly-by-night brand new organization, that lacks the resources to solve a problem if a problem arises. I mean, you got to be careful. So, yeah, long-winded answer, Carlos, but the more of those certifications you have, I think it gives us more comfort that if we do business with your organization, and something goes wrong, you're going to be able to fix it, because that's the measure of it, right? When everything's going right, everybody, but it's when something goes wrong,
Right.
what resources do you have to stand behind it and correct the issue?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time today, Brian. That's really all I had for today. I appreciate all the listeners tuning in.
Before we wrap this up, let me just say, you know, every, dental organization out there, you've got to take cyber security protection very seriously. You should strongly consider engaging, outside resources. This isn't an infomercial, but, obviously if you get in touch with me or Planet D, we can get you in touch with some of those folks. I'm not going to make it an advertisement, but you need to consider engaging outside resources, and you need to have a plan if something happens, because I think, this is going to keep happening and it's not going to stop. And the impact on your business can be really, really material. That'd be the last thing I would say, Carlos, before we wrap up.
No, it's a great point, and I think the key is to be prepared, not to wait till something happens. Is to do your due diligence ahead of something and prepare.
Absolutely.
Again, thank you, Brian. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in today. Brian, I am looking forward to our next conversation, and who knows where the next month will take us.
Yeah, I know. Every month something keeps happening. Hopefully it'll be good news, but let's just get up in the morning and we'll come back in a month and we'll see what the world has delivered to us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's hope for good news next month. All right, Brian. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you. Thank you.